10-hour days, long shifts. It didn't matter how hard the day was or how much I worked. I was gonna get that $150 for the day because I was getting $15 an hour. There's no growth potential inside of what I'm doing. So that's when I was like, something's gotta change. I quit my job at Amazon that September, $25,000 assignment fee. That was my real first wholesale check, and that was the real first money hitting the account. And I'm like, okay, like here it is. Like this is gonna change my life. One deal turned to many.
Why did you ultimately choose real estate amongst the other things?
I heard a lot of the guys' stories or how they started with no money, bad credit, all these different things, which just applied directly to me. Real estate was something everybody ended up doing. People take their profits and roll it back into real estate to preserve their wealth.
Was it challenging to keep God first when the business was like a big focus, or walk me through like what that was like for you?
I could genuinely lose everything I have and be okay knowing that I have, my Lord and Savior above me. I think God speaks to everybody in different ways, but it always aligns back to his word.
What were some of the biggest learning lessons, wins, L's from that first full year? Booyah. Brother.
Oh boy.
We're here, man. It's about time. So we could just jump right in. I want to give you a quick introduction. So this is Kendric, an absolute amazing father of two youngins, one 8 months old. I'm sure we'll get into the family unit and whatnot. Real estate investor, entrepreneur, soon to be the next best guru on the block. No, I'm just kidding. But dude, it's such a pleasure to have you, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
So we're here in Charlotte in our hometown. And I'm finally back in town for the Christmas season. I texted Kendric. I was like, we got to run one. So long time coming, man. I'm excited to dive in.
Yes, sir.
So I think the best place to start, I know you've probably done your origin story here and there, but for the audience, we can just go all the way back from school, getting in trouble, sports, straightening yourself out, and then we can walk our way up until current moment, and then we can talk about what's ahead, all the things. I'd love to get into your faith and how that incorporates, how you incorporate that into your life and your business, and then we can go in a bunch of different angles.
100%.
So where were you in the very beginning, like early days, young adult, becoming 18, like just high school stuff?
Yeah, so I guess to add just context to who I am, again, my name is Kendric Ivey. I'm from Charlotte, and I spent a lot of my life moving around because of the job that my stepdad had. So he was constantly moving around, wasn't military, but we were always moving around. So I was always in new schools, meeting people, that whole thing. So that plays into my skill set of who I am because I had to move so much. I always had to adapt. I always had to meet new people and connect. And just kind of be able to meet friends, and that was something I had to do from an early age. So fast forward up into high school, obviously moved around a lot. I graduated from a school called Cuthbertson in Waxhaw. From there, I was an athlete, so I wanted to go and play college sports. I had that entrepreneurial itch starting back then. I started a little drop shipping store. I had a sale, and I
let it go.
I had something going, but it was also just like, hey, I'm going to play ball, so this is just something on the side. So I think the itch started then and just re-picked up in college. So obviously I went to college, played football, and ended up finding out I was going to have my first son, Israel. And that was during the pandemic. So I made a difficult decision to step away from the game then and hang up the cleats and just drop out of school. 12 credits left. And that's when I started to kind of figure out steps of where I am today. So
yeah, real quick. So when you were faced with the reality that you were about to be a dad, right? You said you hung up the cleats and you dropped out of school. Was that two separate decisions or was it one total?
Yeah, it was actually like one total, somewhat, because I when I stepped away from football, I was in school to play football,
Right.
No matter what athletes say, most of the time, that's we're there to play a sport, and then the school is backup. That's kind of how things are looked at. But essentially, yes, I was the same decision of like, I was going to step away from football and just focus on making income. Cause in my head at that time, I was 21 years old. My birthday's 6 days after Israel. So I turned 22 right after we had him, but I was 21 years old knowing, okay, I got 8 to 9 months roughly on the clock before he's here. And I really don't have anything to my name. So I was like, I got to step away to start making some money. And at that time, all I knew was just work multiple jobs or whatever you could to make the most money. So what was driving the Amazon vans all around Charlotte, delivering, trapping out the van.
Right.
And just, trying to make it happen. So, 10-hour days, long shifts. that ultimately led me to just wanting change, because I got tired of that really quickly. And I see the older guys on the job and I'm like, I don't want to do anything like that, be 60 years old doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, something's got to change.
Yeah. So whenever you found out you were going to be a dad and then you actually dropped out and did the whole resignation thing, how long was it in between that?
From when I dropped out and resigned?
From when you just like, you're like, okay, baby's on the way, to I'm out of school.
Yeah, it was actually probably a couple months span, because we were in summer camp for football, or like just summer workouts, doing like modified stuff, because it was the pandemic. There was all these distancing rules, like we're working out.
You having to tackle somebody 6 feet away?
Like 6 feet away just to run a drill. It was all crazy stuff. So this was during the summer. I already knew in April. During the summer, I kept going through workouts, and then even heading into fall camp, I was still contemplating what it was going to look like. And I had no idea. Like, our coaches, same thing. We're saying, like, we don't know if you guys are going to play a full season, if you guys are going to play a couple games, if you'll play a game at all. We just don't know. And I think it only ended up being like a handful of games that year anyways, because games kept getting...
Thank God for that uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly. Which all played into the bigger picture. So, essentially during that time, it ended up being around right after fall camp, where I was like, I got to step away.
Yeah.
Went and sat with my position coach, a conversation of like, do I continue to try to play her and like try to shoot for something later down the road, or do I just step away now? And I was like, I got to go make income, because there's no income in this in the next few months.
Was there anybody else that was like a mentor for you early on, or that you kind of ran that decision by? Because I'm sure it was a pretty heavy one.
It was definitely heavy, but no.
Just
I
on you.
Great about it, I see, and was like, I hope, you can guide him through this. But at the end of the day, like, person wise, though, I didn't have anyone I could go to and just be like, this is my situation, this is what I face. And I had other teammates in a very similar scenario that probably chose different routes than probably what I chose. But, that was about it. Like, it was just kind of figuring out on my own.
Was Bosch like, I'm sure she was supportive of whatever you wanted to do, but what was she thinking in that moment? Was she like, it's up to you, like,
yeah,
you should go get a check, or I'll follow your lead type thing?
Yeah, I mean, Bosch has always been great, man. She's always been just my rib, my support, like everything I needed. So she's never really like shot down my thoughts or beliefs. Mm-hmm. So
shout out to Bosch, man.
Yeah, shout out to Bosch. At this time, she wasn't even living here, right? So she was in Philly. I know Bosch because of middle school. I could go in a whole other story with that. But long story short, she was living in Philly at that time, still at her school.
Oh, so y'all was in the back and forth.
Yeah, so she was coming down and back and forth. And when she found out, she was friends. She was here for a little bit, but then she went back up to Philly. But she's back at home while all this stuff is going on here. And I'm kind of just relaying messages. But I ended up telling her, hey, like, I'm going to make the decision to step away, and I'm just going to work full time so that I can have some money saved up for us for when the baby's here. And she was in support of that. I also saved up some money. I had to get us a place. She out there. I was like, I need to get us a new place to move you in, because at that time I was living with, my suite mates and stuff. So I was like, I got to get us a place. I got to get some money put away. And that was the thought process in that time of like, how are we going to survive in the next few months?
So you're doing the vans, right? You're seeing all the old heads, like, you're like, oh, hell no, like, this can't be me. But I'm sure at that time, even though you didn't have any leverage or any skills, like on the income side of things, at least, the urgency was high, I'm sure.
Of course.
What was that like in your mind? Like, knowing like, man, I'm on a 9-month crunch. Because I obviously met you a couple of years later, and you've always had a really high sense of urgency about you. And I really appreciate that. And we talked about this because I'm not a father, but learning from you and how when you have a kid, it's not about you anymore, right? Was there like when you wake up, it's like, I got to get to it. It's not about me. Like, walk me through what that was like. Like, what was your self-talk around that time?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely had already had the drive from the sports, my whole life of just like, okay, this is who I am in nature. But when there's a little human coming behind you and it's the first one, there's so much emotions. There's no like, and you got all these people that have kids that you can go to and talk to, right? And just ask them for their experience, etc. But at the end of the day, there's no rule book to parenthood. So there's a pressure of like, what is this going to be like for me? And then two, the urgency is like, now there is literally a ticking clock over me of when this baby's going to get here, which is funny. Like, we have a ticking clock over all of us in just life.
Right.
So this ticking clock was on me for a shortened amount of time for the baby, but it's like, I got to figure out results in this meantime. It's that same thing with life. Like, we got time clocks on us that we can't see. So you can choose to move certain things with urgency, or you can choose to moving things with a slowed down version, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in a little bit.
Yeah.
It was definitely just that sense of urgency. It's like, it's over my head. It felt like pressure. And I was like, it's either going to make a diamond or it's going to break me. And I just I chose the latter. Like, I'm going to make be made a diamond out of it.
Yeah, man. I think, it's important, right? Like, pressure either forms diamonds or busts pipes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's on you, and a lot of people, I think, not that I would say go and have a kid so that you can get your life together, but like sometimes I think people get stuck in this middle period where it's not too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's actually a really dangerous place to be. Like if you've got a job that's just good enough, or a routine that's just good enough, and it's not the sense of pain and the sense of like, oh, if I don't get there by X time, I'm not going to be thrilled with that. Yeah. A lot of people get stuck in that middle period. So sometimes it's like, hey, how can you increase the stakes to where you'll actually be motivated enough to do the actions, right? So, okay, you're going and you're driving the vans, and then a handful of months later, you start thinking like, yeah, this ain't it. Yeah. Walk me through what happens then.
So, yeah, as I was in those vans, it was still the end of fall, which if you're from Charlotte, the end of fall, we just had a 70-degree Christmas. So end of fall at that time is still hot. Yeah. So it was like 80, 90 degrees. I'm in this Amazon outfit, going upstairs of apartments.
Ring door cam.
Packages. I'm sweating every day. Bro, I was grinding. And I was like, it didn't matter how hard the day was or how much I worked. I was going to get that $150 for the day because I was getting $15 an hour. Yep. So that's what I was going to get after that 10-hour shift. So if I worked extremely hard or took my time, whatever the case was, I knew I was getting $150, and I hated that because I was like, there's no growth potential inside of what I'm doing unless I get $1, $2 raise.
Yeah, one of my mentors, Dickie, always talks about how you should get into a vehicle where you get paid based on your performance, even a little bit. It doesn't have to, like, you could take a salary, and some people really like that consistent check, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I've always wanted to put myself in a position where I get paid based on my performance, and that way if I increase my effort, I increase my income. Because like you said, if you were going hard and you were doing all the right things and you were proactive and you were executing, you didn't make any more. Right. So there's no incentive, actually. It's kind of a broken model, unless you look at like in X amount of time I'll get a promotion, but as timelines are just too long, man.
100%. And that was foreign to me at that time, the concept of just being able to work for, performance. I didn't even know that, because everything I seen growing up was like, you work so hard, you get a job, you work as hard as you can for the job for 4 years, you retire, you get a pension, all that whole thing. And then, I just realized, like, for me, when I was even playing football, my thought process was, if I can make it to the NFL, I have enough money to buy my family a house, myself a house, and I'll be good. Like, that was the game plan. So my way of thinking was already super limited, but being in the Amazon van was a catalyst to everything, because I would sit there in the van for so long, driving around. I got tired of listening to music. My AirPods would literally die twice during the shift. Like, they would die at one point in the midpoint and then die towards the end. So I would, I had to charge my AirPods up just to listen to music all day. I got tired of listening to the same stuff. So I started, it was like, what else can I listen to? And that's when I started podcasts. Long story short, those podcasts ultimately pointed me into the books I needed to read to change my life, and then also pointing me in the direction of like what real estate is and how you can get into it without your own cash and stuff like that. So
yeah, so many people. I went through a very similar situation where I went to school in Wilmington, and I'm from Hickory, so it's like a 4.5 hour drive, right, all the way to the coast of North Carolina, and I would go there, and it was such a culture shock for me, going to university and like making it out of my hometown, and like all these kids are wearing these nice clothes and whatever, and I got my cargo pants and my J's on, and I'm like, where am I, and so I would go home every weekend because it was too much to handle, and I was doing other things too, but that's a different story. I think my windshield time though saved my life, dude. I remember someone told me to read The Compound Effect, and they talked about you can turn your car into a university, and dude, I was banging the podcast. So you clicked on the podcast, and at what time was this? Was this when Bosch was like halfway to having you first, or like right at the end, or when was it? So
this was a few months out, because long story short, I quit my job at Amazon that September, like towards the end of September, because I had got a job offer for a sales role that I went and applied for after listening to the podcast. I applied for 100% commission-based sales role.
Who was it that inspired you to do that, or do you remember?
I don't know in particular. I know like I was listening to like BiggerPockets and like even some Dave Ramsey stuff, just stuff like that.
Classics.
Ultimately, somebody or somewhere
get into sales.
Sales was a repetitive thing. So I knew I was like, all right, let me just figure out how to get into sales, because then my there's no cap to what I can earn. And if I apply this same hustle, I don't know everything. I don't know anything in sales, but I know people. I know I moved around my whole life and had to connect with people. So I should be able to figure out sales. So that was the mindset. And when I went ahead and took that step and was like, all right, let me apply. I got it. I started that job October 1st. And in the first week, I was the one of the top ranked sales reps in the company. And I was able to grow very fast in that company. And that obviously was a catalyst to real estate. I got the position knowing that I wanted to get into real estate, but I needed to go, in my mind, learn sales first. Yep. So I spent that 9 months there just honing the craft of, earning and eating what I killed.
So Israel was born. You're working the sales job.
Yep.
Couple more months.
Yep.
4 months before, 4 months after type thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you were becoming the top rep, like walk me through the mindset there. Did you just apply that same sports, like Kobe kill list mentality? Like what were your thoughts going into the job? Like, I'm going to come in and be number one and just clean up the floor with them, or what?
Well, I think one thing that just helped me so early on is like when I got the sales position, I realized right away that I didn't want to sell anybody, because I don't like to be sold, and people don't like to be sold. So that was the main thing right away, was like, I already went into it knowing I wasn't selling people. I was just becoming a better listener, listening to where the issue or problem applied or where I could add value, and really just focusing on that. So all the clients that would come up to me in the stores, I was selling AT&T products, cell phones, TV, internet in the back of the Targets. Yeah. So I really took a different approach of like really identifying, hey, do you have a problem and can I solve it? And if you don't, have a good day. I'm not going to hold you up and try to force something to you. But if there's something you have and you genuinely weren't happy with it, well, look, let's just talk about it, right? See, I played that therapist role to these customers, and that was just converting into sales.
Yeah. So was that like, you're in the Target and you're going, hey, are you happy with your phone service? Or like, what was that opener?
What was the pitch? What was the pitch there? It was like, hey, who do you use for your cell phone service? And then, they say their service. And I'm like, well, if I could get you unlimited talk, text, and data on the nation's #1 network, would that be helpful for you?
Dang, yeah.
If I could bring you back.
Yeah, bro. I remember you threw up one of those, like screenshots on your story of like someone who you sold like phone service to that ended up like buying a deal from you, or like selling their house through you or something like that. Yep. I think a lot of people, to hit on what you just said, like active listening, problem solving, like that's what business is. Mm-hmm. Business is just like an idea that makes someone's life better. And so AT&T, cheaper service, et cetera, whatever. And then when you convert someone into a customer, you're solving a problem for them. And so if you're in the sales space, which a lot of my people are, you have to understand what you're doing. Like sales is a service. Yeah. And that's why someone's at the car dealership to talk to you. And unfortunately, there's a stigma around salespeople, and a lot of people unfortunately do it wrong. But some people need help managing a change, right? It's like, well, I don't really know about phone service, and I don't know what options are there, and I don't know if I can even get it cheaper. If I could, it would be great. Can you walk me through it? And so what you're doing is really helping people. But the people that just try to sell things, even though they're trying to make more by doing that, it actually backfires, because the person who makes the most is going to be the one who, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You got to listen, So, okay, so you're crushing the sales. Yeah. Becoming #1, you're working in the Target, and then you become a dad. Yeah. Right. And then you're still listening to podcasts and stuff, I'm sure, doing the BiggerPockets, Dave Ramsey, whoever else. Was there anything else that you wanted to do besides real estate, or was that like pronounced as like the main thing? And why did you ultimately choose real estate amongst the other things like drop shipping, Amazon, this, that, and the third?
Yeah, I think from all the information I had just collected at that time, it just was kind of made clear that real estate was something everybody ended up doing. Whether you did drop shipping or where you did e-com, whatever the case may be, people take their profits and roll it back into real estate to preserve their wealth. So I was just like, okay, if I'm going to end up there anyways, what way does it look like for me to just start there too and end there? So that pointed me to kind of just looking up more real estate stuff, which again, I got pointed to BiggerPockets, and I heard a lot of the guys' stories or how they started with no money, bad credit, all these different things, which just applied directly to me. So this
bet. Yeah. I think it's interesting because like obviously real estate, they talk about how it's made the most millionaires.
Yeah.
And for me, like the way I think about my business is like it's mostly just cash flow. Like there's no real enterprise value. And so as soon as I get a lump sum, like we've already done a couple deals, like or at least one.
Yeah.
As soon as I get a nest egg, I'm going to put it into that vehicle that can work for me. Yeah. I remember when we met, you were hitting the ground running on the wholesaling and everything. And you had framed it as like you just said, like getting into it now and creating a business out of it so that you can learn it and climb your way up, even though a lot of people do it on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So did you do a deal while you were in sales? Walk me through that first contract and what happened there.
Yeah, so there is a gap in between the sales position and wholesaling, which when I quit the job at the sales company, I was actually at a mastermind down in Atlanta, or I went down there to a mastermind to drop off just shoes for a circle of CEOs out of Atlanta. My brother-in-law was, custom sneak designer. He was going to design some sneaks for some of the guys out there.
Did you know about the mastermind outside of him doing a shoe order?
No, I didn't. I might have seen a couple clips or like he might have sent me something prior to us going down there, but I didn't know about, like I wasn't a part of the mastermind.
Right.
But long story short, us going down there and just being in the mix of it all, and we're going to the restaurants and we're catching some of the guys in and out and stuff like that, having conversations with them and realizing like, oh, they don't. I'm like, what time you guys got to go to work or what times you got to do stuff? And they're like, this is work, this is our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And just, really getting I've been listening to it obviously on podcasts. I knew what I was trying to head towards, but seeing it was like, hold up, this is like, I know where I'm going, but this is real time. And on top of that, they kind of gave me the conviction of like, I don't need to wait till I hit this certain pinnacle in sales if I just start now. So I literally came back that weekend from there and quit my position the same weekend. I literally was like, I'm done. I'm not coming back in. And I did Turo and rental arbitrage Airbnb first. So that was a couple of months. That gave me cash flow. That was a small, quick victory. But yeah, that ultimately, once I was doing the arbitrage real estate, I went and got into another program. And all the people in that program kept telling me, you're in North Carolina. You're there with Maxwell. You're there with Maxwell. I'm like, who is this Maxwell guy? So I finally look him up and I YouTube him, and he's talking about real estate wholesaling and how you can make $15,000 selling a piece of paper. And I was like, yo, this dude's a scam. Like, I don't know why would I waste my time with this. But ultimately, I did a little bit deeper diving. Next thing you know, I'm listening to this guy on the podcast, and I'm driving around my car looking at beat up houses, just trying to find an opportunity. Like, oh, like that's kind of similar to what he was doing.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, man, is we've made a few leaps here, and there's a few checkpoints, right? Like at first you're like, I don't know anything, I'm unaware, and then you have a little bit of awareness, right? You start listening to some podcasts, breaking your limiting beliefs, and then you see it and you're like, oh, quit my job. And then you do some stuff and then you figure out about a new thing, and you're like, scam. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, let me look into it. And then we can keep going. But like, it's so fascinating how it's like an onion, right? Like at first you're just like completely brand new, green, no, nothing. And you have to kind of peel these layers back. And so many people that get stuck on the whole like make money online's a scam thing. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there are a bunch of people that are full of it. But I think you have to kind of go through that, right? Unless you're just somehow born into being exposed to like your parents being a business owner. I mean, there's some situations where you can get into it earlier on, but for me, it was the exact same thing. Like I had known about business and I had done some things that put me in a position where I could conceptualize it, but same thing happened to me where I had to go and break my brain a little bit. And then I met someone, I'm like, and then it slowly built up to where I had the confidence. And Hormozy talks about like, even if you pay X amount of money, like 5, 10, 20 grand to get into a mastermind, and you see the person on stage and you just go, oh, they're just a regular person. That alone is worth the investment because it kind of gives you that permission. Not that you have to have that, but it gives you that permission to go, oh, well, if he can do it and he's from Charlotte and he's down the street, Maxwell, I mean, why couldn't I?
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so you're looking around, you find out about this new Maxwell thing, you're kind of poking around at these houses.
Yep. And Max was on a podcast with a guy out of Charlotte. I didn't know this until like in the middle or end of the podcast. He's like, you're here in Charlotte doing XYZ. And I was like, oh, what? So he's on a podcast with a guy talking about wholesaling that's based out of Charlotte. I'm like, as God would have it, like perfect design. I'm like, whoa, he's here. I'm like, I just reach out and it was just like, I find him on Instagram. I start blowing him up. I'm like sending them the houses I'm driving by, sending them address.
Yo, is this a deal?
Yo, complete junk, right? Like if I'm the email box, I'm the spam folder and I'm just emptying the clip. So he's like, yo, finally he was like, yo, you're doing a lot of hustle without the direction. He's like, why don't you come into my office and let's see if there's room to work with each other, you know, going into the year. This was December of 2021. I went to his office December 31st, 2021. And we're talking about this
4 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're talking about this wholesale thing. And he's got a small team. He's like, you know, I'm about to start basically another run. You know, I just did a $1.7 million a year doing this last year. He's like, how can you come in and we work alongside of each other? Like you bring your company, work alongside my company, and we partner up and do deals. And he's like, you know, I could show you the ropes and you come in and, you know, you have your own LLC, you get paid your funds, I get paid my funds, and we do deals together. I was like, that sounds amazing. I get to come in and learn the business and learn everything and get paid to do it. I don't have to pay you to do it. I was like, I'll be here tomorrow. So 5 a.m. January 1st, I'm at this guy's office and we're in front of a whiteboard and we're talking about what 2022 was going to look like and, you know, mapping the year out. So I got connected with that guy. And I was with him for 3 months. And by the end of the third month, I was kicked out of his company because I was working for him technically. Wasn't aware that I was like what my role was until I learned the model. So essentially I was an acquisitions manager for this guy. And in the third month of the business, I knew the entire business and I had already kind of started to overstep and cross some boundaries that his team wasn't okay with. So like just doing extra work, like trying to dispo a deal as an acquisitions guy wasn't my role.
And so when you say you got kicked out, do you mean because you were going too hard and you were just too ambitious with it? Or was it they were like afraid, or was it like disrespect? Like what was it that made it to where you had to go?
I mean, it was ruffled feathers for sure. And now being on the other side and have owned the wholesale operation to see what it looks like, I understand exactly what they were coming from. The way I was kicked out is there wasn't really clear expectations up front set. Like,
yeah.
If I would have known what my role was and what
your responsibilities were.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even tried to do certain things that I did. But essentially I ruffled feathers by, again, overstepping out my hustle. And I was like, oh, he wasn't getting something done in time. I'll do it and have it done fast.
Was it him that had a problem with it, or was the team and then they brought it up to him?
Part of the team, and it, you know, brought to him. And then that's when I got to see just the full effect and full colors of everybody. So that there was like, all right, it was more like I'm not kicking you out, but you know this model, and it's probably best you run it yourself.
So it was kind of like, hey, spread your wings.
Spread your wings and fly type of thing.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, that's exactly what I look at it. There's no hard feelings towards the guy or whatever.
Cool.
You know, and then I was young and just...
You know what's funny is like, what I think about a lot is, because I've been in situations where my mentors have allowed me to like, really jump off the couch and jump off the porch and do the thing. Mm-hmm. And they facilitate that growth and align it even further, which he could have done. But then again, like he said, hey, you got it, champ, you know? So, okay. So you get exited from the company, mutually respectful, whatever. Yep. A little feathers ruffled, but now you're going to do your own thing. So did you immediately go, I'm going to go run the wholesale play?
So yeah, because right before I was kicked out, probably like a month and a half before that, I met someone else along the path, and she went to my university. I didn't know her at this time. She was an athlete on the women's basketball team, and I was on the football team. We didn't even know each other at UNCC, but fast forward through us being in the same paths, we knew somebody that was mutual who saw us both posting stories about us starting in real estate and what we were doing. And he was like, yo, like, she's doing this, you're doing this, y'all should try to connect. So, I ended up, she ended up coming into one of the events that guy held, which was like a monthly meetup. And she came there, told her story. And I was like, I'm going to do business with the person. We're going to be business partners. So she actually came and started shadowing in the office with me for that last month and a half. Mm-hmm. Sales wasn't her thing like it was for me, but she was like, I got other aspects of this like hustle and grit that I could apply to this.
Sure.
Like operations, selling deals, etc. So right around that same time when that was happening, I'm going back and forth talking with her about the things. And I'm like, well, I'm gone. Like, I'm getting kicked out. And she's like, well, I'm not getting left here and you're getting kicked out. And I came here because of you. And she's like, well, we know enough information for the both of us to run the play. So
yeah.
why don't we just run the play? So
run it.
We ran the play. And because we were in his model and saw how he was as a buyer and what he liked, we went and reverse engineered. And my agent, Angie, who I've worked with since I gotten into real estate.
Let's go.
Shout out Angie. I went to her and said, hey, like, this is what we need to do. She found the deal in the market. We got it under contract, $70,000 below the list price, and then assigned it to the same guy that kicked us out for a $25,000 assignment fee.
Yeah.
So that was my real first wholesale check, and that was the real first money hitting the account. And I'm like, okay, like, this is serious money, because I closed a few deals with him, but he was paying me, 10
X amount of percentage. Yeah.
Right. So this was my first real
5-figure check.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, here it is. Like, this is going to change my life. And that's
Sure.
where one deal turned to many.
Word up, man.
Yeah.
Damn. 4 years ago.
4 years ago. It's crazy. Already.
Time really flies, dude.
Floating.
Yeah, because I remember whenever you had kicked off with your business partner, and I was seeing both of y'all like in Charlotte and stuff, and I was in Johnson City, Tennessee, and we could talk about how we made it over here. Sure. But like, I remember seeing you, kind of sharing game and then making it known what you were doing, and we can talk a lot about how like organic content is the thing, But walk me through, like, whenever you had that $25,000 check hit, what was the emotion? Were you like, damn, like, I finally started to hit something? Because obviously it's like, okay, now it's for real. But like, how are you feeling?
I mean, the feeling was like, and it was split 50-50 with the
right.
So it was like, I don't know, it was 13 or 12.5 or something like that. But still, 5-figure check in my account. And I was just like, man, like, this is the most amount of money I've been able to make in a single transaction from something. And it was so, like, it was work, but it was not the work. It wasn't the tech.
Wasn't driving 10 hours of this. Yeah.
So that's how
your AirPods weren't dying on this.
AirPods weren't dying to get this done. So I was like, yo, this is the feeling with an emotion was just like gratitude. I was just like, yo, this is amazing that this could even happen to somebody like me. And then the next feeling was just like, how do we scale this? How do we do this, more of these? So
yeah.
Before I didn't soak in the moment for long. It was just like, okay, victory. But I look at my son, I look at my soon to be wife, and I'm like, we got to go get some more stuff.
Turn it up.
So yeah, we turned it up and just did more deals and just put more cash away and burned money and lost money and all the things. But that feeling and first emotion was just like gratitude and then quick movement to keep rolling so that I didn't lose momentum.
Mm-hmm. So you step on the gas.
Yeah.
Right? You and your partner, y'all do business, going hard. Y'all both learn about different roles and responsibilities. Y'all are teaming up and kind of really compatible with each other. Yeah. Right? What were some of the biggest learning lessons, wins, L's from that first full year?
Don't hire too fast.
Yeah.
Because we immediately we did like 2 more deals and made like 60 or 80 grand, and we thought we were on fire and thought we were the ones. And
had that Midas touch.
Yeah. We had 6 acquisition managers. We had a full team. And next thing you know, no deals are closing, but all this money is going out to payroll and food and transportation, all just random stuff. And we spend all this money. We're like, yo, we're losing everything. And then on top of that, we thought we were so good at wholesaling that the same thing applied to flipping. So we buy some flips and we start losing money. And we actually lost our biggest deal that December, or leading into January of 2023 is when it sold. But we lost the deal for 60 grand where we lost $60,000.
You're like, let's do a deal. Boom.
Yeah, that was the complete opposite of what it looked like on paper. Like, we was going to make 60 plus till we lost 60 plus. So
what was that feeling like whenever you closed out and you literally had to, like, you went down 60? Like, what were you telling yourself?
Really, like, because we raised private capital to do the deal. So we lost the deal.
Leverage.
We got people's money invested at loss. And my whole thought process was we're not destroying our reputation because we can't perform on a deal. So it was just like, what's the solution? We just got to figure it out, which we knew we were good at wholesaling. So that following month after the $60,000 loss, we had our first 6-figure month wholesaling. So it was this immediate action of like, what can put cash in the bank and recoup the hole that we're in. It was that. And it was throughout the span of the year that we recovered from that $60,000 hit. But we were able to get our investors paid out on time. and put money back on our account and keep ourselves fed to survive. That was the whole thing. So it was just immediate action. Like when stuff like that happens in business, you can't take 100 days just sitting and sulking and like, when I lost it.
Yeah.
You gotta get back up and run, or you just
Yeah. I think on a local level, like I see this a lot with my sales guys.
Yeah.
Like they'll get a refund request, or they'll have some deal that was supposed to go through, text them and say that they don't want to move forward anymore. And the Layla Hormozi talks about the definition of resilience is like how fast you can get back to baseline. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so spot on, because the most resilient person is going to win because they can get back to getting those at bats, right? Like you said, down 60, up 100. And the person who stays down, that's just going to carry over, and that compounding, like, speed is the number one thing in entrepreneurship, right? So you lose a 60, now you're back up 100. What happens next?
Yeah, we continued to wholesale and knew that flipping wasn't going to really help us, but that loss also just had me in thought, right? Like, honestly, we moved, right? But wisdom tells us, like, it teaches us in the word, is like, wisdom, we learn from the mistakes. We don't just have the mistake and continue to repeat it. So we knew we lost $60,000 on our house, but I really wanted to break down the root cause of it. And when I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, we're tearing down the walls and finding out what's behind it. I was like, what's the reverse process to this? And it was new construction. I was like, how do we, instead of tearing down walls, create walls and go vertical? And literally, as God would have it, there was a mentorship offered by a guy in the city teaching development. And we were like the first two people to reach out to him. And we signed up for his first ever development class, paid $6,000. And we were rocking and rolling in that in 2023. We started that class in like summer of 2023.
Yeah, I had kept up with you at that point because I remember you doing that. And you were like, $6,000, invest in yourself, blah, blah, blah. And you were really starting to do the thing. And so how long did it take you to learn something, apply it, and profit from it? Obviously from a skills perspective, but also a financial perspective from making that investment into yourself.
So, I mean, you can say we bought our first infill lot in April of 2024. So April of 2024, we bought our first deal that we were doing new development, but we were learning land and zoning that whole rest of the way from when we started the mentorship. So it was almost a full year before we actually did something with it, like physically, but we were in the middle of, like, every day was learning something about it because zoning and land was just so complex to us at that time. So we just had to really dive into the logistics. And we technically partnered with our mentorship and we entitled a larger tract of land. We took 3.5 acres with one home and entitled it for 35 townhomes, meaning we turned one lot into 35 via paper. So we did that first, and that was technically our first, like, foot in the game. But most people don't start that way. They just start, like, with a build or something like that.
Yeah.
So we went big, and then we regressed back to smaller and started in April of that following year.
Okay. And so while you're doing that, you're still cash flowing on the wholesale operation.
Yeah, still wholesaling.
Cool. That's when you're in the office.
Yeah,
over there. Over there.
6-figure months rolling. Because you do one of those, like, how we do another one, which we did. So we were just trying to scale that up. I think we did 3 or 4 6-figure months in 23. But that was, like, obviously that paid bills, kept the lights on, kept us hungry.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I remember reaching out to you and I was like, damn, like, you got something going on. You're in Charlotte. I'm thinking about moving there. Yeah. Dude, I remember when I came in, it was right around the time that Hormozi did the book launch. And for the $100 Million Leads book. Cause I remember I had the hat and I gave your boy one of the books. But we met up at the coffee shop in Pineville. Yeah. What was it?
Down there at, it's funny, I live across the street now, over at, I'm blanking on the name.
I forget.
Yeah. It's not a coffee shop in Pineville.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's only one.
There's only one. Yeah, so we were in Pineville coffee shop. We hit it off. We had probably an hour and a half long conversation, caffeinated, ripping the thing. And I was like, I'm going to move to Charlotte. So you were a big reason why I ended up pulling the trigger to move here. And I appreciate you for that a lot, man, because you gave me an open arm. You're like, yo, I got the connections. If you're trying to get on the scene, I got the scene for you, XYZ. So I ended up moving in to Charlotte in December 31st, 2023. Yeah. So a lot of December 31st making stuff happen. And then 2024 was an absolute ride, man. 2024 was one of those, every year has gotten better and more lessons and more learnings, but 2024 was a special year because I was living with my two buddies and we were on the same sales team and we were just running it up, doing the thing. We learned a lot that year, man, but I hit my stride in Charlotte, and I appreciate you for giving me the nudge to move there. So you're going into, you did the big deal, then you kind of went back down doing the wholesale operation. Now we're in 2024. Were you still just trying to perfect the model and keep it rolling? What else did you add in 2024 that led to growth? And that's when we did our first deal together, was last year.
Yeah. So we wanted to just scale the development once we knew that was, because wholesaling, you burn out, it's a tiring business, but we knew that we could.
It's like sales and marketing.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's a sales and marketing machine. So we were like getting a little burnt out from that and wanted development because it made sense to us. And we knew we could go get great deals by sourcing them ourselves and just building it. We've been selling it to everybody else. Why don't we just start doing our own way? So we obviously broke ground on that first build in April, and then we started collecting a bunch more that year. So same model applied of how we would raise money and find deals. We just applied it to new development. And we got paid. We closed that first build. We bought it in April, sold it in November. So that first check hit then, it wasn't nothing crazy. It was like 40 grand check, something like that. But that again was like, all right, here's another proven concept of money from new construction. And at this time, we had already had like 5 active builds now because of it. And you got invested into one of our deals, and we were like, all right, we can continue to wholesale when we want, but this could be our big deal machine. Like if we have a few builds going at once at a time, or 2 in theory hit at once, that 40 goes to 80, or that, if we had more profit margin, et cetera. So yeah, that was the mindset.
What do you think? And you started posting a lot of content too. And I think you upped your content game at that time. Yeah. Talk to me about how big content has been for you in that period and even now.
Without the content, you and I aren't sitting here today having this convo, right?
That's a fact.
So it's like the content was just documenting the process and putting it out there and letting the people that it was supposed to reach be reached by it. So, we were just documenting what we could. At that time, we had a guy that we were paying for mentorship just to help us and like, what's the path to this? And like, just post what you're doing, even if it's not perfect. So we did that. And again, it connected us to who we needed to connect with. And, since then, obviously, it's kind of grown a little bit. But that was just documenting the process and not making it look perfect or anything like that. There was no sales behind it. There was nothing like
Kendric.
Yeah. What about this? And there's no offer.
Yeah.
I'm pointing up here. There's no offer. There's nothing for you. Like, people were asking me for stuff, too. I'm like, I'm not selling. I'm just documenting what I got going on. So that in itself, again, connected me with the individuals that I needed to, like yourself, and ultimately just continue to lead me further down the path of where I was going.
Sure. So I'm sure that whenever you're getting into these development projects, obviously the goal is to use outside funds. That way you can preserve your cash flow. Did you tie up a lot of y'all's capital in some of the builds yourself? And then I'm sure there were moments where it was a crunch, like cash flow crunch.
Yeah, you learn along the way with like, don't let Instagram gurus fool you up. There's people making quote unquote 200 grand a month and they're spending 250 a month to make that. So they're net negative every month. So we were making a lot of money, but a lot of the cash we made actually went to us. Like, we were just paying ourselves and staying afloat and staying alive. But we did tie some cash up into projects too, not like a bunch of money, but yes, the model was to raise capital in our deals, because when we sold and got our profit, that's when the return capital is paid out plus their profit. So it was a win-win scenario. It's like people that already have cash get to put their money to work, they earn returns, and hey, like if this thing goes wrong, you get to take over the asset, and the asset's worth more than what you're going to invest. So it was a win-win. So that was the model. And I mean, again, a lot of cash we would make profit-wise would just stay with us to make sure we're good and, kept afloat.
It's so funny, man. I deal with this probably more than you. I'm sure it's like that in the real estate side, but people talk about their revenue. You can't pay bills with revenue, brother. No. So it's like where's the net profit numbers at? So I think so many people get lost in the sauce when it comes to social media, and I get it, right? You got to do your thing, and the algorithm rewards these extremes and stuff. But that's one of the things that I've refused to do, is like make these claims that are even a little bit outside of the truth, Have you noticed that in real estate, you've got a really good community around you, and you're connected to a lot of people here, and guys like the real estate guru. I love that guy, and whoever, like there's some big players here, and sure. Abram and your guy Paul from Nashville. God, he just kills the game, bro. What would you say is like the temperature around like the real estate community? Like, have you seen a lot of shysters, or is it like, do you have a good eye for it?
Yeah, you just have a good eye for it, because if you're really in the real estate industry, you can look up deeds, you can look up who's selling things,
other records,
what's going on and who owns what and who's doing what. So transactions. So if there's somebody online just selling something and they don't have proof of concept, they don't have HUD statements, transactions, real
HUD.
Yeah, or HUD.
Yeah.
They say HUD up or something like that. So if you don't have real proof of what you're doing, it's very quick to vet out who's real and what's not. Now, obviously, to the mass, they can sell people and people fall for it. But, yes, if you're in the industry, you have a good eye for what's real and what's fake. And there's a lot of people that are really crushing it in the game. But then again, like we just said, like people also make a lot of money, but what does their back end look like and their back office look like in their books? I can't tell you. Some people show a lifestyle and live a different way. I just, like you said, like I'm not really a believer of that. Like I show how I actually live and what that actually looks like, and that's what works for me, is being my true authentic self, not trying to sell you something on a lifestyle that is fake or something.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think the lifestyle content has a deadline. I think it's not going to be that successful in a couple of years because people want to build something with real human individuals, and the whole Lamborghini thing, like, it's not going to work, I don't think. And the temptation, right? And for anybody making content, whether you're in real estate or whether you're in sales or you're a founder or whatever, the temptation is to make all these claims to go viral, but like the virality ain't even what does it. Like you want to get that good middle of funnel, value-based stuff, and you don't have to give away all the sauce or nothing, but don't be afraid to do that. And I think it's interesting, man, because you were just talking about how right before this, you had made an Instagram post or a YouTube video that brought you some deals, right? So what would you say to the person who maybe doesn't want to become a guru or a influencer, but they're not posting online or they have some sort of reservation about it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for the way I started was documenting the journey. So if you're someone out there that's not wanting to be caught up in the mix of guru or selling or that type of lane, post what you're actually doing, because you never know who's watching, right? So when someone is bringing me a deal or an opportunity online from content, it's because they see what I'm doing. Like, oh, Ken is looking for land. Like, I'm just putting out there what I'm doing and what I'm looking for and who I can add value to and who can add value to me. That's what I'm putting out there. And it's not in a formatted way. It's just like, that's what it is. And because I'm putting that out, this is what's coming back in: opportunities, connections. Do you like this opportunity, etc.? So it's brought in deals, it's brought in more private capital, more opportunities. So I would highly encourage anybody that says, or they're not, they're against social media, to put that to the side and just do it. Even if you want to live some private lifestyle or something like that, you don't have to put out, what you do at home or how you live or whatever the case may be. Just put out what helps you in your business so that your business can grow, because content is literally a fuel for your business.
Yeah. I think everybody's going to have to pay attention to the fact that we are living in first we had the jungle, right? Then we had the concrete jungle. Now we got the digital jungle, right? And it's like, if you don't have media as a part of your business, you're just leaving so much money on the table. And I finally got over it this year. I was like, I got to get in front of the camera. Although I try to do the short form thing, and I'm going to get into that. But this long form conversation is where I feel the most natural. And so I can do it kind of effortlessly, right? And for me, this will be like podcast number 20 on the year. And so, yeah, thank you, man. And I've already started to see some of the fruits, right? Like, I don't even have a name for it. But yeah, I think I've already started. I've gotten like 3 or 4 people that want to sponsor it, and they want to send me stuff. I'm actually flying to Miami in a couple of days to do a podcast where the person covered my flight and my stay and all that. And like, they're a big name. And I was like, this is super cool. So I'm just going to keep throwing gasoline on the fire with that. But yeah, get to posting online. Like, you never know who's watching, right? And I already think about that from like an inspiration standpoint. And as a sales rep and as a sales person inside of that department of the business, I know what it looks like to do one-on-one business, right? Shaking hands, close a deal. But this whole marketing aspect, and especially with organic content, it's free and it's permissionless, meaning there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. And so it's just such a multiplier to where now, like, I think, dude, I only get like maybe 100 views, or I've had a couple that did 1,000 on YouTube. I got a notification on my phone that said, your content has been watched for 2,000 hours or something. I'm like, what? Like, that's crazy. So you got to get the media working for you, man. Of course. So, okay, 2024, a lot of lessons. Now let's go into 2025. Yes. I'd love to understand, because once I moved here and we started hanging out, obviously we had always been super busy, but we grabbed food a bunch of times, and then we started doing our sermons on the mount, which really helped me a ton in a huge way. And shout out to Carson too. And I think you guys were the ones that pioneered that, or you and your boys. And so we started going to do these Bible studies. What's the mountain called?
Crowder's Mountain.
Crowder's. Up at Crowder's, man. And man, what a great time. One thing I wanted to do this year, that I did move the needle on, not as much as I wanted to, but was to just put God first. Yeah. That was a big goal of mine. I wanted to read the Bible in a year. I fell way short of that because I think I set the goal too high at first and I didn't keep up with it, and it was kind of like demotivating. Yeah. But I really wanted to put God first instead of business, because I made the most money I made in any year this year, and God willing, that's great. But I've already started to snowball it up, and next year I really want to keep God at the forefront. So walk me through your faith, and now that you're building a family, and now you've got multiple children, right? Yeah. Praise God. Like, walk me through like what it looked like to put faith into things, to integrate it into things. Because you're kind of, I see you as a mentor in that way, where you're a few steps ahead of that than me, and so I appreciate you for that. But walk me through like how you integrate faith, and was it challenging to keep God first when the business was like a big focus, or walk me through like what that was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, when you get to 2025, out of all the stuff that we just talking about, this has definitely been for me too one of the most movement year, like the most life-changing years as well in the entire entrepreneurial journey. In great ways too. Yeah. I think the most money I've made, all these things, right? But it's also what happened and what transpired. It got me back on my walk with faith, which was the biggest out of everything. Because I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up believing in God and Jesus and knowing, who my Lord and Savior was. But in 2025, I got that reminder from him, which I hadn't heard from him in a couple of years. I think God speaks to everybody in different ways, but it always aligns back to his word. And long story short, in January, right after my birthday, I had a dream leading up to my birthday, about my biological father, who I had cut off a couple of years ago, and we hadn't spoken in 2+ years at all. No text, no calls, no nothing. And we hadn't talked, and it was something that was weighing on me so heavily, but I just ignored it and didn't act like it wasn't, and just kept moving. And I had a dream, and I heard clearly from God. He said, it's time to forgive your father. And I remember I was like, that was not just like a regular dream. That was kind of out of body. It was very clear when I heard, it's time to forgive your father. And I woke up, it was like 5 a.m, and I roll over and check my phone. And the first and only text I have is from my dad. And it's a long text, and it's a devotional as well, which, prior to when I cut him off, we never had talks about God like that. So for him to be texting me for the first time in 2.5 years, and it'd be a devotional and just reaching out.
That's the day that you had the dream.
I can't make it up. I had the dream. I roll up out of my bed and roll over, and this was like 5 something in the morning. So he was up early too and sent me that text. So that's
divine.
That's what we know as the Holy Spirit. But that divine moment got me back on my walk, and it's grown obviously over the year and how it's transpired. But that alone was my wake up call that like nothing, no title, no husband, father, real estate, whatever I want to claim means anything if my walk with God isn't right. And because I was able to get that back on track, I now realize the order of everything else. Like I could genuinely lose everything I have and be okay knowing that I have, my Lord and Savior above me. So that alone has helped me to walk with much more confidence, walk in the rooms, knowing where I'm supposed to be, connecting with who I'm supposed to connect with, letting things die out that are no longer of me anymore. So it shifted a lot, but that moment in January was the cornerstone. It got me back on my walk, reading my word daily, to where I want to read it, not like it was like an assignment and task. But I tell people, like, take your time with it. Like, you don't have to force yourself to read the word. You don't have to force yourself to go to church or do all these things. Live as you're called. Like, take your baby steps into, where we all belong to in my eyes of like Christ is like, he wants a relationship with us. We got to be the ones to seek it. Right. And I just been seeking this year and reading, and it's been producing its fruits.
Man, praise God. I think it's interesting how I tried to apply this really extreme, like marathon mindset type thing to it. And it's interesting because it's one of the areas of my life where I feel the most resistance. Not in like a, I don't want to do it way, but in like a, I feel like I'm being called for so much more and I'm kind of afraid of that way, if that makes sense. Like I was talking to Carson about this and he was like, man, if you just applied the same type of mindset that you do to sales and business and this ultra marathon thing on, if you put that on your faith, oh my gosh, right? And I think part of me is a little bit afraid of that. And so instead of trying to go 0 to 1, do this whole extreme thing, I'm really just chipping away, and getting around people that also have those same values. And I got a couple guys back in Austin where I'm living at now. And when we were here, we were doing the Crowder's Mountain thing, and I had got involved here and there. It's important to have those mentors, right, and get around it. And so walk me through this year. How did that unfold?
Yeah. So, and I would break it down like this too, because it's easier for us to say, like, if you apply the same mindset you do in business to your faith, how great things could be, because it's just not that simple. And I think God has a design for each and every one of us of what it looks like to walk around our own path. And the way I would like to break it down, which is kind of real estate related too, is like faith is the foundation of the house, right? Okay. So if your foundation is built on sand, or if your foundation is your business, let's say, and everything in your business goes wrong from the moment we leave here for the rest of the year, next year, etc., and you can't earn a single dollar, but everything you have is tied up into your business or running marathons. If your entire identity is tied in that, and you break your legs, you can never run again, your business shuts down, you can never operate out of your business again, what are you going to fall back on if that was your foundation?
Nothing. You ain't got nothing.
And what will come out of that, I can't tell you. Some people can fall so deep into dark places that now they're the guys that took themselves out, and I would have never expected that because they had no foundation. So the way I lay it out is like, faith is the foundation, and it's the solid foundation. It's the rock. It's the cornerstone in following Christ.
Yeah.
So if that's our foundation, then we're able to build on top of that with peace of mind, knowing that if the house falls down, I got a nice, solid foundation that I landed on that I could start back over with. Versus if I don't have that foundation and I fall down, I don't know what's going to turn of me. So it wasn't even on some seeking mentors. It was seeking him and allowing him to guide my path, which allowed for everything to transpire this year. Yeah. I met Carson technically last year in 2024, but it wasn't divine. We had a more divine connection in January. I
would have thought y'all known each other forever, man.
No, we met this year, bro, technically. January of this year. He's in a coffee shop. Actually, we worked out at the same gym, like I said, and people were trying to connect us because they knew he was in real estate and I was in real estate, but nothing was really there. But lo and behold, the day that we connected, I'm walking out of the gym and there's a light tunnel in the gym we work at, Core 24.
Let's go.
And he's on the end treadmill and I'm walking out and I see him and we had talked a little bit, but ironic, I saved his name in my phone under like something. It wasn't Carson, it was like Casey or something. I heard it wrong. So I had it locked. Literally had this man's name locked in wrong. So I'm walking out. I fist pumped the dude and I was like, we got to get up, son. He's like, yeah, bro, hit me. And it was like, you could tell it was like a divine connection. Like, pow. I walk out, I go to Plunge House, do my thing. And then for whatever reason, when I got done at Plunge House that day, I was like, man, I really want to go to this coffee shop. I don't know why, but I was like, I could just go back.
Same day.
Yeah, same day. I was like, I could just go home. I was like, let me just go to this coffee shop. I go to the coffee shop. I start walking around the corner. I open the door.
Bro's
I
there.
see Carson sitting there with somebody else and he throws his arms up. He's like, yo. I was like, yo, that's crazy. But what's crazier too is I had texted him when I left the gym and I was like, yo, like, this is me, lock me in, blah, blah, blah. We got to get together. And I was like, yo, I walked in. I was like, bro, I just texted you like an hour ago. He's like, I don't got no text from you. And I was like, it's like Casey, right? He's like, no, Carson. I was like, oh, snap. So I called this dude by the wrong name. I had him say his wrong name, but
They said the wrong text.
So yeah, so I checked this name, and I had it saved in my phone as somebody else, but it wasn't him. So I get that all figured out, and he's like, "Yo, like I'm in this meeting for real estate, and we just impromptu. You should sit down and chop it up with us."
Sure.
So I joined in on their meeting, and what started as a like 30 to 40-minute conversation where the other guy ended up having to leave. Me and Carson stayed for like 2 hours. And I think one of the pillars of that conversation, what she says, like, that's when he knew we were going to be locked in, is we were talking about our faith. And I had just recently got that answer from God.
That download.
I go in my bag and I pull out my sword, aka the Bible, and I start talking. He's like, when you pulled out your Bible and you were carrying it on you, he said, I knew you were serious about your walk. And it's just so funny to see like how God has used us this year to kind of reach other people and we're connected in our faith. And you know, we have a church home that we both go to now that he had stepped away from it for a few years just due to the loss of his mom and, you know, his life events. And, you know, we're back in the church and, you know, we were doing our thing as far as just reaching people, never doing things that we felt like we should just do it. We were just doing and living, you know, as we were called.
Yeah, man, what a ride, man. Yeah. And, okay. So you've got the pillar right there figured out. You got the download from your dad. Walk me through the relationship thing. Like, how did you rekindle with your pops? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy too, because I tried so many worldly things to fix it beforehand. Like, I was in therapy, I was journaling, I was doing all these things that I thought was going to fix it, and none of those things mended the relationship or fixed it. It was truly God that had to be, you know, my focus again to mend the relationship back. And what that looked like for me was just removing all expectations, right? So like the reason we fell out is because I expected him as a father to do certain things, right? And when he didn't, or what I felt like, you know, he neglected me, it frustrated me, it triggered me. It triggered years of trauma because he grew up, you know, not in and out of my life, right? So that was the expectation piece. And so when you remove all expectations of something, you can't be let down. Because if I don't expect anything from you, and you don't give me anything, well, I didn't expect anything anyway, so why would I be let down? Yeah. So if the mindset is just removing all expectations, anything could be mended, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like satisfaction is a good equation. Satisfaction equals reality minus expectations. Yeah. And so if you just have no expectations, just satisfaction equals reality.
Satisfaction, right? It's peaceful. So that alone has allowed our relationship to be mended, because now we can get together, we can have, you know, genuine conversation. And a lot of times we don't really talk about anything serious anyways. Like, I'm never really like, it's never like a deep intellectual conversation of like X, Y, and Z of like, it's just like spending the time with each other and good, knowing that
quality time.
This is finite, you know, time. Like, I don't want to leave this earth. I don't want you to leave this earth and us have regrets of like, man, we couldn't put our pride to connect. So now that that's gone, like, I'm at peace knowing like we are connected. That was that weight that I had to get off my back of like, if something goes wrong, you know what?
Yeah. Well, you should be really proud of the fact that you did it, man. Obviously it was God, right? So we don't have to take credit for it, but like, that's amazing, man. And a lot of people, there's probably somebody out here listening to that might have a relationship with their dad where it's kind of broken up. And they, you know, if anybody's listening that's like same type of thing, I would encourage you to just reach out, man. So, business is booming. You're still doing big deals and stuff. Like, what have you learned this year? What has been on the business front? I'm sorry, there's some changes in your business, right? You want to walk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest pieces of this year is, and I haven't really spoken on it, is that me and my partner went two separate ways. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest change because we started together in this. Yeah. And it wasn't something that I personally wanted to do, but it was something I felt led by God needed to be done.
Sure.
And, you know, I don't know what's fully to come of it because we're not, you know, we still got active deals going. We still got stuff going on, but it's like what we were building going forward, we knew had to be separate. Yeah. So,
well, y'all are both powerhouses in your own regard, you know, and I'm sure that you wish that person the best, obviously. And I'm sure y'all are cordial and y'all are both very mature. Yeah. What was challenging about that?
I mean, the challenging piece was was I hearing from him correctly? Because a lot of people say they got from God, but it's like, you got to match it up with the word of God too. Like, he's not going to tell you to do something that's outside of his will and his nature. Yeah. So it was a lot of that, which I knew it was feeling like something that was going to change. I just didn't know it was that. And when I kind of got that kind of expectation or that answer, like, yo, that I think he wants us to go separate ways. It was just those conversations and like what it looked like to sit down and talk about it. And be like, you know, I think this is our time to go separate ways. And just trusting and knowing that in you and in me, we both are capable of doing this business and growing as entrepreneurs and going down the path that we're supposed to go down. I don't want to affect your path. As much as it doesn't probably make sense now, I don't want to affect your path. And I don't want you to affect my path or my family's path. So I'm going to answer the call and do the hard decision, which I think he's telling me to do, which is say, hey, we got to step away. That was obviously the hardest piece. Once it was done, it's like, okay, it's not as terrible as it sounded or looked. It's like I'm at peace more so than anything, because I'm like, it didn't kill us. We're still alive. We're still breathing. We're still operating. But it just modified what life looked like. And I'm okay with that, because there's changes needed to grow. And the moment we think we can't change, we don't grow. So I knew that was a change that had to be made. It was made. It was a tough pill to swallow, but at the same time, again, it was peace. It came from it. So at the hike of a mountain, looking up when we're at the bottom and we're looking up at the top, it's so like, oh, we got to go up this whole mountain. We're looking at all the stairs we got to go. When we get to the stairs at Crowder's, our legs are on fire. It's like, sheesh, like if you look up, it's going to get harder. But if you just take the step in front of you, each step, step by step, next thing you know, you're at the top of the mountain. And at the top of the mountain, there's peace.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, man, change is required. In the moment you stop thinking that you could change, you're going to stay exactly where you are or regress, right? So you've officially now become your own business, right? And you had your second child, 8 months ish, right? Yeah. So with that on top of it, right? Like, I mean, one could look at that situation from the outside looking in and say, oh my gosh, he's juggling this, he's juggling that. But one thing I did notice about you, man, the last time we did our hike, which was 2-3 months ago. Yeah. Probably, is you had that peace about you. And I was going through some stuff too, probably not to that level of magnitude, but like one thing that I noticed when we were having these conversations behind closed doors privately about what you were going through, I just noticed that you had that peace. And I asked you, like, where's your mental at with everything? Like, how are you doing? Scale of 1 to 10. And you're like, I'm good. And so do you think that was because of your walk with the Lord?
Bro, if I didn't have them, emotions would have been all over the place. That wouldn't have probably transpired. I would have kept going. Like, on the outside looking in, from the worldly perspective looking in, it was a crazy decision. Business wise, you're in the momentum that you have, the things you got rolling, how great things are going, what you could cook up from it on paper was like, why would you stop that? Right. So on paper, it looks crazy, but what I was feeling led to internally was different. And it's just like, I guess anybody that the wealthy man in the mansion that's lonely on the inside, like on the outside, he looks like he's doing great. On the inside, he's tormented. I just said it, before, or even if I never get to that point, I'd rather be on the inside well than look like I'm well on the outside and not well on the outside. So that was the mindset of like, okay, it's got to be done. And that piece of it all ties right back into it, which is like, I am focused. I'm dwelling in the moment of like what he's telling me to do and just answering and being obedient to it. And through that obedience gave me peace and just perspective and what needed to be done. And what, despite I just had my second child, I got my family, I got all these things going on and juggling, it all slowed down. And it led me to realizing I can slow down in all these areas of my life to go faster. And that's what I did. I slowed down. I took my control off of the wheel. I took my hands off and rendered it to God. And he got opportunities and doors to me that I didn't think were going to happen. Like when I tell you he brought me deals, he brought me deals. I didn't do nothing for those deals. Like opportunities, you know what's cooking up.
Falling out of your lap.
All this stuff that's being brought is like, I could have missed all of it if I wasn't obedient. So that's why there was peace. And through juggling all of that stuff, I knew I was going to be okay. And so far, so right.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting about the obedience part, because a lot of people think that you get like there's no clear like obedience to reward, right? Like there is, but you kind of have to just accept the fact that you walk with God the way that he's intending to do. I guess what I'm trying to say is like people want to walk with God their way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And for me, like I keep fighting that. I'm like, I try to put my spin on it, or my expectations, or my perspective of how things should and would go. But it's really not like that, man. And I think that, like you said, the peace comes from the obedience. And if you put that first, the rest kind of takes care of itself. And then as long as you can taper those expectations and not resist to it, then you're in a good place. Like I heard another good definition, which was suffering equals pain times resistance, or something like that. And if you like people, you're going to suffer, right? No matter what, right? But if you resist it, it's just going to multiply so many times over. And so the best thing you can do is just try to decrease that resistance and just flow with it, right? And I think that's what walking with God actually looks like. When you lay your problems at his feet and you just say, look, Lord, you got me along the way. I'm going to obey. And like you said, having that time in the morning and having that getting in the word allows you to have that peace throughout the rest of the day. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Something that's compelling me to ask you about where you're at right now in the word. Is there any specific verses or chapters or books that you're into right now that's kind of helping you?
He spoke to me recently through Psalms 37, and Psalms 37 and 23 specifically says that, the Lord establishes the steps of a man, and who delights in his ways, right? So I read that verse recently, and it really stood out to me. It's because it's like, I've seen so many doors and opportunities and things happen where he's been able to provide for me. And it's because maybe, he's delighting in the ways of me seeking him. And all of Psalms 37 is actually a breakdown and explanation of just like what it looks like to see the enemy or the wicked, winning in this world versus what truly winning is with him, with Christ. So that verse in particular has been standing out to me. And I mean, I don't tell people like they got to read specific books or anything like that. Live as your call, read as your call, but I'm in and out of the Gospels right now. I'm in and out of Psalms and Proverbs for wisdom and guidance, but it's just so much knowledge accumulate. Like, we really take for granted that the entire book of life is the word. So if we actually process that and really apply it, every book that I've read, when I break it down, derives back like every single one. So it's just like, okay, I can go to all these other secondary sources, or I can go to the main source and get the real meat and potatoes. So when I go there, I get the real meat and potatoes. And again, that's one of the ways that he's able to speak through us, is like, when you see a verse 10 times in a week, maybe that's not just coincidence, right? Like, you got to have discernment to know when it is him and when it's not. But it's like, maybe you should read and understand what that verse is, and does it apply to you, and how can you apply it to you? So, I mean, so again, there's nothing in specific that I say people should go out and read, or me personally, like I'm in and out of books. I'm in the Gospels, and like I said, in between Psalms and Proverbs, but it's all life changing when you truly slow it down and apply it. Like, you don't have to read and float through it. Even if you read 2 lines, sit and soak in it and see, like, how does this really apply to where I'm at? Because I guarantee you, whatever you're going through, going to, or going to do is in the word.
Bar. Dang, that's a bar, man. I think, like you said, like the whole personal development industry and self-help stuff is great, right? Like we said, YouTube University, do the podcast thing. But getting in the word is, there's nothing that even comes close. And I'm starting to scratch the surface here. I got a really good friend named Chris who's on my sales team, and he has done a lot for me. He was a former Bible teacher, and he did a big missionary thing in Korea and whatnot. And he has really been just like giving me these booklets to work through and just how to apply the scripture. And it's been a ton of fun. And honestly, like, it is the original text that this whole Western civilization is built off of, and it's all the answers are right there. You know what I mean?
It's like, if we just take that time and apply it, that changes everything. So, again, the best thing that I could tell to you, which I've said, is just like, don't feel pressured or forced with this stuff. Like, no matter what it looks like from anybody else, like, the people that say, oh, like, I'm not going to walk with this person, or I'm going to cut them off because they're, not in their faith, or whatever the case may be, that's nobody you need to be connected with anyways, because they probably got a log in their eye and they're trying to point out the speck in someone else's. So do your own walk. It's going to look a little different than everybody else, but I'm sure if you're getting and feeling a tug now, you will continue to feel that tug for a while. And you want to make sure you answer that tug and that call, because the worst place I think people can get is where they don't hear from God. They don't feel his conviction and correction. And now they just live life with no bars, and there's no guidelines to what they live and what they do. And they may have some worldly success, but what does it really look like on the inside? Like, did they sacrifice their soul to get whatever they have? Like, is their business their God? And for a lot of people, that is the case. Like, their business, what they do, who they believe they are, is their God, not really God himself. And they give thanks to God, but it's like, okay, break that down. Like, what does it look like? So you got to make sure your path is your path. You don't want to ignore the call, but don't feel forced to every single moment or every single day, I got to figure out a way, because you just may never take the steps you need to take to actually get there.
Yeah, it's really interesting how I was listening to this guy. I think his name is Arthur Brooks. I might have that incorrect, but he's a professor at Harvard, and he talks about the idols and how I think he talks about it in the sense of there's honor, pleasure, power, and money might be the four that he refers to, or some combination of that. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't know what your idols are, you can actually eliminate some of them, right? And it's like, okay, well, do you want power? Maybe not. Do you want money? Not as much. Do you want pleasure? Maybe not. And then it's the other one, right? And so I've been thinking a lot about how, like, what my idols are. And, money was a big one, I think. Pleasure is certainly up there on the list. And I'm really trying to think about discipline a little bit differently, because if you know me, right, whether it's in sales and being in this industry for a couple of years and building teams and stuff, or the marathon thing where it's like doing these crazy races, you would think I'm a disciplined person. And to some degree I am, but discipline I've been thinking about a lot as doing the things that you don't want to do, or not doing the things that you want to do, right? In your flesh, and in the world. Yeah. And like, if you like doing podcasts, then it's not discipline. Or if you like running 10 miles on a Saturday, it's really not discipline. Like, discipline is the thing that you don't want to do, that you do it anyways, or the thing that you want to do, you don't do it because you know better, right? Yeah. And like, for me, there's a few areas in my life where I'm really trying to just curb and delete some of it, like with fasting and getting my eating under control, or whatever it might be, or the girls thing. Like, it's hard, bro.
Of course.
It's really hard. Like,
I mean, that again, we know from the word that our nature, our fleshly nature, is the desire to things we probably shouldn't desire, or want things that we.
The human condition.
Yeah, that's what it is. So when we go back to that word of suffering, that's where we turn it into, what does it look like to suffer well, right?
Yes, sir.
If we all suffer, how do we suffer well through it? And that's where the mindset and the shifts and the changes and your heart start to happen, because then when you're really seeking him and you're suffering well, what that looks like is your desires to please and serve and honor him are going to become stronger than the urges to sin and live in a different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So when those urges start to surpass, the other things get easier to pass. It doesn't become, like impossible. You can't fall. Anybody can fall, but it's much more easier to suppress those urges when your desire is just to please him. Because then also too, we talk about wisdom and we talk about correction and fine tuning. We know, just like when I flipped that house and lost 60 grand, I don't want to do that again, because it was a terrible feeling. So when I know the outcome of a bad thing, I don't do it again. Same thing applies in our faith. If we know the outcome of cheating on your wife leads to divorce, I don't want to cheat on my wife. Lead to divorce, right? Yeah. So we started to just weigh the consequences of, like, okay, does the consequence of what I want to do fleshly outweigh what is my reality? That's when things start to also change too. And it's like, again, your conviction is your conviction. I can't tell you when you're convicted or what convicts you or what things you go through that you deal with on the inside. Mm-hmm. But if you're feeling like I'm doing something and it doesn't sit right with my spirit, I just challenge you to try to correct it. And it doesn't have to be all at once. It's not an overnight thing. But it's like, if you start hacking away at it now and just keep putting it out there and surrounding yourself with the right people, like you said you are, it eventually will fade away.
Yeah, it's really, like, you have to just have faith. And I think there's a difference between faith and trust. Mm-hmm. Trust means you've seen evidence and you can bank on it, right? And I'm just kind of putting my own spin on this. And I think faith is blind belief. Yeah. And you can have faith and trust, right? Knowing that you've got that evidence. You're like, yeah, I know that if I do this, good things will come. And if I obey, boom. But at first, there has to be a faith aspect where it's like, I don't even have any results, or maybe I do, but I'm not really conscious of them. And even if you have a little bit of faith, like they talk about, like faith of a mustard seed, I think is it in Matthew?
Yeah, mustard seed.
Yeah.
Mustard seed.
So like, even if you have that little bit of faith and you can just bank on that, it'll grow. Yeah. You know, and it can move mountains.
Exactly. You just got to water the seed. Like you said, there's no faith is the things we can't see, but we still believe, right? So, and I mean, if we want to get from a technical standpoint of who we serve, like we know for a fact Jesus was on this earth. We know that he resurrected. There's a visual account of these things. Like we know these things, but the faith aspect of how this stuff applies to us today is we can't do things out of like, okay, he's going to bless me and reward me and prosperity out of it. But we do these things to live an honorable life. And that's going to, again, bring us back to the peace aspect that allows us to thrive and be able to operate at the highest level that we possibly can.
Yeah, man. It's a fun ride. Like, if you think about it, it's like the ultimate marathon. Like, I think of things a lot in that way. But that's the walk, right? Or the run, or the journey, or whatever, or the hike, you know? But it really is like, it is a journey, right? There's no arrival point. I mean, obviously, like we have, if we accept Jesus and he's our savior, we have that eternity waiting on us, which is, I guess you could think of it as an arrival point. Yeah. But on this earth, right, it's a journey all the way through. All the way. And it's up and down, you know, and it's not supposed to look perfect. And there's going to be doubts and there's going to be trials and tribulations that might cause you to question it, right? I mean, I'm sure even you, to this day, you have questions and ups and downs in your faith and things like that. But with the little bit amount of time that we have left, I'd love to understand, like, what does it look like for you practically? Like, do you have a routine in place with it? And not just with the Bible stuff, but all that too. But like, walk me through your fatherly business Christian routine. Like, what does it look like?
I mean, I think it starts with knowing I'm not perfect.
Yep.
So I'm just a man at the end of the day. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to learn. And I give myself the grace needed to persevere so that I can't suffer well
by grace through faith.
Yeah. So for me, again, I feel led to tap into the source. There may not be some days I'm like, I need to get up and get right with my word or something like that. I may not feel that feeling, but for me, there is a feeling and connection right now to read his word, to get to know him the best as I can possible so that he can guide me so that things flow easier. Like, and that applies in every area of my life. Like, I can tell you Proverbs 22:6. It tells you to train up a child in the way they should go so that when they're older, they don't turn away from it. So if I can teach my children now the principles and how to live in life, when they get older, they may not walk a perfect life. They won't, because no one's perfect. But at the end of it, they can remember who I was and what I taught them and what I stood on.
Yeah.
So that may be the mustard seed that turns them around in life to make sure they're focusing on a path that, pleases him.
Well, what's interesting about that is, like, if they see you doing it, it's not a lot about what we hear or what we're told. It's about what we see, exactly. Right? And as a father figure, if you surrender and you're Mr., big shot to them, and you're their idol, right? You're their father figure. Yeah. And if they see you surrendering and being in prayer and giving up the Sabbath day for the Lord, like, they're going to make that correlation. So that's sick, bro. You're really going to build that pillar.
Special recipe, just
consistency on that.